Am I the jerk for how I reacted when my fiancée ditched me for a concert with her best friend while I was sick? Alright, folks, I need a reality check here. My ex-fiancée. Let's call her Kelly. She's 28 and I'm 31. Plus her entire friend group are now painting me as some manipulative villain. Meanwhile, I honestly think I handled what I saw as a full-on relationship system failure in a calm, rational way. But yeah, the aftermath was a mess. So here I am, laying it all out. Am I actually the bad guy? Kelly and I had been together for 4 years, engaged for the last 6 months. From the outside, we probably looked like a solid, happy couple. I've got a stable career as a lead project manager, and I never minded being the main provider. The apartment lease is solely in my name. Same with the utilities, the car she drives, and even our shared phone plan. That was a mutual decision when we moved in together, since my credit score and income were stronger. She worked part-time as a social media manager, and most of her earnings went toward her own personal spending. As far as I knew, we had a balanced, supportive partnership. The one thing that always seemed to put a dent in our otherwise solid relationship was her guy best friend, Leo, 30. They'd known each other since their college days, and honestly, their bond was intense. He even had a key to our apartment. Leo was basically a permanent fixture in our lives. Anytime we had an argument, she'd be on the phone with him for advice before we'd even finished hashing things out ourselves. I'd brought up the need for some boundaries, calmly, respectfully, more than once. Every single time, she brushed it off and labeled me jealous or insecure. Her go-to line was always, "Leo is my family. You just have to deal with it." And I did deal with it, because I trusted her. Turns out, that was my mistake. Fast forward to last Wednesday, I got hit hard with the flu. And I'm not talking about a mild cold. I mean a full-blown, 103-degree fever, chills, body aches, the whole miserable package. I was basically glued to the couch, too weak to do much of anything. Friday rolled around, and it happened to be the night of a huge concert for a band she and Leo both adore. They bought those tickets months back. Naturally, I told Kelly she should still go. I wasn't about to ask her to skip the show. All I wanted was for her to check in on me before heading out, and maybe grab some extra medicine on her way back. Honestly, that felt like a pretty reasonable ask for the guy you're planning to marry. By Friday afternoon, around 5 p.m., I was feeling even worse. I called her and asked if she could pick up a specific fever reducer on her way home from work. She said she couldn't. She was already out with Leo, getting ready for the concert. "All right," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Could you at least fill my water glass before you leave? And just text me when you're heading home tonight?" That's when her voice changed, a little hesitant, almost careful. "Actually, Leo and I were thinking about getting a hotel downtown after the show. It's going to be super late, and it's easier than trying to grab a cab back." I just froze. My fiancée was telling me she planned to spend the night in a hotel with her male best friend, instead of coming home to her sick partner. "Kelly," I said quietly, "I've got a high fever. I'm here alone. I need you to come home tonight." And that's when she said the sentence that flipped our entire relationship upside down. She let out this long, irritated sigh, the kind you give when someone's inconveniencing you. "Look, I know you're sick, but I can't let Leo down. He's been looking forward to this for months. I already promised him. It's just one night." I waited for her to follow that up with something. Anything that showed she cared about how I was doing. A little concern. A hint of empathy. Nothing. Her choice couldn't have been clearer. My health, my comfort, my well-being, none of that was at the top of her list. The top spot belonged to making sure her best friend wasn't disappointed. In that moment, a strange calm came over me. The fever, the aches, they all seemed to fade. And in that sudden clarity, I saw our relationship for what it really was. The foundation wasn't just cracked. There was no foundation at all. "I see," I said, my tone completely flat. "Good," she replied, sounding relieved. "I'm glad you're not going to make a big deal about this. I'll see you tomorrow." Then she hung up. I stayed on that couch for a long time, staring at the ceiling. And then it hit me. I wasn't going to make a big deal out of this. I was going to make the last deal out of this. With a jolt of adrenaline and a generous dose of ibuprofen, I got moving. Everything I did was calm, deliberate, almost surgical. Step 1, I packed 3 large suitcases. Every single thing that was mine, clothes, books, work files, family photos. Piece by piece, I erased myself from that apartment like I'd never been there. Step 2. I made calls. First to the phone company. Her line was on my family plan, so I had it suspended on the spot. Then to my credit card provider. I reported the extra card I'd given her as stolen, and they shut it down instantly. After that, I logged into every streaming account we shared and changed all the passwords. Step 3. I sat down at my laptop. I drafted a short, polite email to our landlord, officially giving my 30-day notice. I attached the signed form, paid the last month's rent in full, and hit send. And finally, step 4. I wrote a note. Short, simple, final. I set the note down on the spotless, empty kitchen counter, right beside her now useless apartment key. Then I picked up my own key, walked out the door, and shut it behind me for the very last time. I drove straight to my parents' place, knowing I could crash there for a few weeks, and by the time my head hit the pillow, I was out cold. The note I left behind read, "Hope the show was worth it. Go be his priority." So, Reddit, am I the jerk for how I handled this? She claims I was diabolical and way out of proportion. Me? I think I simply took her at her word. 3 days later, the response to my original post has been overwhelmingly validating. Seriously, thank you to everyone who assured me I'm not losing my mind. A lot of you wanted to know how the fallout went down. And, just as many of you guessed, it was spectacular. I spent all of Saturday holed up at my parents' house, finally starting to recover. My fever broke, and my phone stayed blissfully quiet. I'd blocked Kelly's number, but deep down, I knew that calm wouldn't last. Sure enough, the storm hit on Sunday afternoon. It started with a flurry of frantic emails from Kelly. The first one hit my inbox around 1 p.m., and the tone was all confusion. Subject: where are you? Hey, just got back to the apartment. It's empty. Where's all your stuff? And my key doesn't work anymore. Did you change the locks? Call me. About an hour later, the confusion had turned to anger. Subject: this isn't funny, Mark. My phone's not working. I had to borrow Leo's just to email you. What the hell did you do? And why is there a notice from the landlord on the door saying the lease is terminated? Call him and fix this right now. The last one came late that night, and it was nothing but raw panic. Subject: please, just talk to me. Okay, I get it, you're mad. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have stayed at the hotel. But this is insane. You can't just vanish and cancel the lease. I have nowhere to go. One more email trickled in. All my stuff is still here. And the credit card you gave me got declined at brunch today. It was humiliating. We need to talk. Please, Mark, I made a mistake. I didn't answer. Not a single one. The real story of their weekend didn't even come from Kelly. It came from an unexpected source. Leo's on-again, off-again girlfriend, Sarah. She tracked me down on social media after my Reddit post started making the rounds, and her opening line was, "You're my new personal hero." Sarah told me that Leo had claimed he was going on a guy's weekend out of town. She only found out he was actually at a concert with my fiancé when she saw their Instagram posts. According to her, this was classic Leo, bouncing between women, soaking up their attention, and crashing at their places whenever he and Sarah were on a break. She also gave me the play-by-play of their big Sunday comeback. Kelly and Leo waltzed back to the apartment expecting normalcy, only to be greeted by my note and the reality of what they'd walked into. Kelly's phone was dead, her access cut off, and the safety net she thought she had, gone. The Wi-Fi password changed. Every streaming account logged out. The place was stripped bare of anything that belonged to me, just her scattered belongings left behind in a home that, legally, wasn't hers anymore. Their romantic weekend instantly imploded into a shouting match. She accused him of pushing her to stay at the hotel. Once he realized that the cozy apartment and the free-spending fiancé were no longer on the table, apparently lost all interest in playing the role of her loyal best friend. According to Sarah, he grabbed his bag, walked out, and left her standing in the middle of that hollow apartment, saying it was her mess to deal with. So there she was, my fiancé, who couldn't be bothered to come home when I was sick, suddenly alone in a place she was being evicted from, with no phone, no money, and no best friend. The person she had made her top priority had abandoned her, just like she'd abandoned me. 1 month later, the past month has been nothing but the methodical work of finalizing my freedom. And from what I've heard, the legal and financial fallout for Kelly has been a slow, grinding, miserable process. My lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman my dad recommended, took the reins from there. We had a formal letter hand-delivered to Kelly by a process server. It was short, cold, and devastatingly clear. The letter spelled out that I had vacated the apartment and terminated the lease, both fully within my legal rights. It also contained an itemized list of every piece of furniture and major asset in that apartment, each one purchased by me, with receipts attached for proof. She had two choices: buy the items from me at a fair, depreciated value. Let me send a moving crew to collect them on the final day of the lease. On top of that, the letter included a final, itemized bill for her share of expenses from our last month together. Concert tickets, yes, the ones I'd paid for, and her portion of the final utility bills. Her lawyer's response was, let's just say, less than impressive. The guy sent a rambling, desperate email claiming she was entitled to half the assets as my common-law partner, and accusing me of making her homeless maliciously and without warning. My lawyer's reply, which she read to me over the phone, was, I'm told, a masterpiece. She calmly reminded him that our state has some of the strictest common-law marriage requirements in the country, and we didn't meet a single one of them. My lawyer framed everything not as vindictive, but as the direct and entirely reasonable consequence of Kelly's own stated priorities. Attached to the letter was my sworn affidavit, laying out exactly what happened that Friday, word for word, including the line, I can't let Leo down. The final paragraph of the letter made our position crystal clear. If Kelly wanted to take this to court, we'd be happy to proceed. And, naturally, we'd be subpoenaing Leo to testify under oath about the nature of their relationship and their night at the hotel. That was the moment her lawyer went silent. The last thing they wanted was Leo on the witness stand, answering those kinds of questions. Legally cornered, Kelly had to face the reality she'd created for herself. She couldn't afford to buy the furniture. She couldn't afford to keep the apartment. For the last few weeks of her tenancy, she slept on an air mattress in an empty room, surrounded by boxes, the echo of a life she'd managed to dismantle all on her own. Move-out day was the final act. No yelling, no drama, just quiet. I showed up with the movers and a neutral third party to oversee everything. Kelly looked like a ghost. All the fire, all the defiance she'd once had gone. She sat on the floor, silent, while the life she'd taken for granted was boxed up and carried out piece by piece. She didn't speak to me. She didn't even meet my eyes. It wasn't until the movers lifted the final piece, our bed, and started toward the door that she finally broke the silence. Her voice was rough, barely above a whisper. Was it really just about the concert? I looked at her, this woman I no longer recognized, and said, no, it was never about the concert. It was about a fever, and it was about a choice. You made yours. I made mine. Final update, 6 months later. It's been half a year since I walked out of that apartment and into a better life. The chaos is gone now, replaced with something quieter, steadier, a sense of purpose I didn't know I was missing. The final consequences of Kelly's choice weren't delivered by me. They came courtesy of the simple, unforgiving math of real life. Once she was forced out of the apartment, her world unraveled fast. No home, no money, and a reputation in pieces, she ended up back in her childhood bedroom at her parents' house. The glamorous city life she'd been living on my dime evaporated overnight. Her friendship with Leo, the man she couldn't let down, didn't survive either. He'd been looking for a fun, no-strings-attached partner in crime, not someone broke, burned out, and stuck under her parents' roof. He got what he wanted and moved on. From what I've heard, her parents aren't thrilled. They're helping her, but they're also making her take responsibility for the first time in her life. She had to get a full-time job just to start paying down her debts, including the final bill I sent her. Now she's living a life defined by consequences, something she never really understood before. As for me, I've never been better. The first thing I did after leaving was take an actual vacation. Just me, no baggage, no drama. I spent 2 weeks in the mountains, hiking, clearing my head, and figuring out who I was without her. Most of the furniture from the old apartment was sold off. It all carried too many bad memories. With that money, I put a down payment on a small house of my own, a place with a yard and a workshop where I can tinker on projects. For the first time in years, I'm building on a foundation that's entirely mine. Work has been going better than ever. The calm and focus in my personal life have spilled over into my business, and I'm leading with more clarity than I ever thought possible. I haven't jumped back into dating yet, and I'm in no rush. Right now, I'm just taking time to enjoy being on my own, rebuilding my trust in my own judgment. And honestly, I'm not lonely. I'm content. Kelly's decision that night was simple. She chose a concert over a commitment. She chose a friend over a fiancé. She traded a lifetime of loyalty for a fleeting moment of fun. She thought it was a small choice, just one night. But it was the final stress test on a structure that was already cracking, and it caused a complete collapse. I didn't seek revenge. I just walked out of the building and let it fall. And I've never been more grateful for my own good judgment. So Reddit, am I the jerk? I think we all know the answer.